Hi, this is City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I have a layout chair for you. This layout chair is of layouts that I created for a load challenge. And if you're not familiar with load stands for layout a day. And this challenge is run by Scrap Happy. And I have a big stack of layouts. And before I put them in the albums, I wanted to show them to you. They were already in albums, but what I decided was I wanted to label each of my layouts, not only with the date that the photos were taken, but also with the date that I created the layouts. So I was going back and I was labeling my layouts with the date of the load challenge, and I thought this would be a good time to share them with you. So I'm going to get started. This first layout is of an older picture of my two daughters on a trip we made to Philadelphia. A lot of the layouts that I made in this bunch of layouts are from that trip to Philadelphia. This was from Independence Hall, and I used a really old Jolie sticker. I was certainly very happy about that. I also used this sunburst paper. I love sunburst papers. It's just a small piece of one, but I really like to use them. I think they add like a little bit of drama to the layout. And you can see I use a lot of bling and stars and a tag. This next layout is of my two daughters again from several years ago. And as I've mentioned on some of my other videos, my family really likes to go to Salem, Massachusetts at Halloween time. They just have some fun Halloween related things to do there, and we really enjoy it. So I made this layout using some Halloween papers in the background. These are some flowers. I got these at a garage sale where somebody was selling a bunch of embellishments that were used on children's clothing. And just to make sure it didn't look too sweet, I added some spiders and spider webs just to fit in with that Halloween theme. This next layout was also from a picture that was taken in Philadelphia, and this is a picture of my two daughters again at the Franklin Fountain. And on this layout, I used some authentic papers, but I also used some things that I got from the store. They had little cards, so I used this card. This was from, I believe, a little card. These were cut out of the little takeout containers they had for the ice cream, and then everything else is just embellishments and papers. And you can see enamel dots and some die-cut banners. Another one of the attractions that they have in Philadelphia is Eastern State Penitentiary. It's a really, really old prison, and it's definitely in the later stages of decay, but it's super cool. And this was the first time we went there. My kids really loved it a lot. We didn't leave too much time to go there, so the next time we went there, we left more time. We took a lot of pictures. It's very hard to take bad pictures there. All the pictures seem to come pretty good. And I was challenged because I'm used to doing bright, cheerful layouts, and with all of the decay and the old vibe that's there, I had to find from my stash some things that were more appropriate for an older looking theme. So I use this very old die-cut paper. I've had this for quite a while. I think these are Prima clocks. In any case, those were, they're made out of like the plaster or resin, and I just, added some color to them. This was a very old embellishment that I had, and I just tried to keep an older looking vibe. Here's another page from Eastern State Penitentiary. You can see how broken down it is, but there's something, I don't know, something super cool with it, especially with the light shining through. So again, I wanted to scrapbook in a way that I wasn't using bright colored flowers. I wanted to use more muted tones, but I also didn't want it to be boring. So I used some texture paste on the background and some sprays. This is actually a resist paper, so you could see in some of these spots where I use the sprays, the pattern came through. But I also used a stencil, and then I had these older clocks. And that's about it for that one. Here's another one from, again, Eastern State Penitentiary, again using that resist paper. And I was trying to get all the pictures of the doors that I wanted to put in my daughter's album on this page. So the focus was on including multiple pictures. And so to make it more interesting, I used rectangles and then some circles too. Here is another picture taken. I'm pretty sure this was taken in Franklin Fountain, although there's a candy store next door. Maybe this was when one was taken in the candy store. And I just cut the circle out several times. You could see it's in like this light pink, and green, and then the background is brown. Surrounded it with some buttons and some chipboard pieces. Here's another one of those Eastern State Penitentiary layouts, and this was taken outside. It's super cool. It looks just like a castle. And I used, again, some ripped papers. I did some inking of the edges, used some metal pieces, anything to give it the right kind of old vibe. This was taken outside of Franklin Fountain as well. Here you see I used a grid pattern using hearts instead of squares or circles, and I used a Graphic 45 collection that I thought would be appropriate. And yeah, that was a pretty quick one. A lot of fussy cutting in that one. Here's another layout. This is of the same place, and I used a sunburst pattern again, and the same authentique, I think this is the same authentique collection, I'm pretty sure, and just some ice cream embellishments. And this was also super cool. It was very like actual authentic old-fashioned items in there. Here's another Eastern State Penitentiary. Again, I used a lot of torn paper, and these were some, I think, 7 gypsy pieces of plastic that resembled flooring and old walls and tattered things. So I used some of those in the background and tried to use colors that would capture the rust and ruin kind of vibe. I found it kind of challenging, coming up with a lot of different pages for rusty old things. Here again is another, I used that sunburst again and lots of stars. This was taken in Independence Hall in Philadelphia. Here we are back again to Eastern State Penitentiary. I'm showing you the layouts in the order that I created them. That's why I'm going back and forth with topics. I didn't feel like doing the same topic every day, so I would switch back and forth, but I wanted to get that Philadelphia album done. So you can see, again, I used these thin pieces of plastic. I colored them with some wax paste, the background of stencils, and texture paste as well. And this was cool. This is a mirror. There were a couple of mirrors here that we took a selfie in that were inside Eastern State Penitentiary. On a totally different note, this is of my dog Coco. Coco has her crate, and we put a nice brand new soft fluffy bed in there, and I don't think she had it more than a day or two, and we came home and found that she had totally ripped it apart. And she makes this face when she knows she's done something wrong. It cracks us up. I used a quilt kind of pattern here. I shouldn't have cut the triangles. I should have left these triangles bigger, but I don't think I actually had these papers in the larger size, so I was trying to piece them together, but I'm still happy with it. And I do look on Pinterest a lot at quilt patterns for inspiration. I was doing it a lot back then. I still have a couple of go-to designs that are quilt inspired. This one is from the New York Botanical Gardens, and again you could see the quilt inspiration. It's a Simple Stories collection, and I just fussy cut out these flowers, and there's some chipboard and enamel dots, and I used a punch. This one is again inspired by a quilt pattern, just a fun birthday layout. My daughter does not like cake. She loves candy though, so we just made her a little birthday treat using gummies and Hershey's Kisses. This title was definitely inspired by the load challenge. I don't remember what the prompt was, but I know I wouldn't have used this, a sign of greatness, had I not had a a challenge with sign, of course, spelled in the mathematical way rather than SIGN. And this was my daughter in her senior year of high school. She already graduated from college, so these are some old pictures. And again, here's that sunburst. And these are some jelly bean soup papers. Oops. We're back again to Eastern State Penitentiary. I remember I was inspired by a Paige Evans page where she took a, I guess you could call it a sunburst page. The burst came out of the center and she distressed the edges of all the triangles and then glued them to another piece of paper. And I thought that would be perfect for this page where, of course, my colors aren't as colorful as hers, but I distressed the edges and glued it down to another piece of paper. And I, again, use those plastic overlay pieces that I put some wax on. I rubbed some wax on one of the resin clocks, and looks like some sprays and texture paste in the background. Here is a layout of our other dog, Jackson. We adopted them about the same time, about a week apart from each other. Well, a week apart from each other. And this is Jackson on the day that we adopted him. This was him at the rescue. And this was a sketch from the Scrap Happy group. They have a monthly sketch. This layout is a simple layout. It's of my daughter graduating college. I'm working on that album right now. And it's a simple layout. There's nothing really super exciting about it. It's just a grid layout. But what I like is that I got the story down here that I wanted to record. And I'm trying to work on that. Trying to work on not just showcasing pictures, but telling the story behind the pictures. And sometimes I'm good at that. Sometimes I'm not as good at that, but I'm working on it. Here is a layout. I used the Bo Bunny Harmony collection, and I used some sprays and texture paste in the background. I used some die cut flowers. I used a lot of the chipboard that I got from Tuesday Morning, and I use this doily. I have a little collection of old doilies that I sometimes use in my scrapbooking layouts. Here we are again at Eastern State Penitentiary. This, again, is using my older looking papers with a lot of earth tones in them. I use the metal again. This is a Tim Holtz frame. And yeah, I just layered up some older looking papers. Many of my papers are old, but these are just, craft and some, like I said, earth tone papers. This isn't my favorite layout. It is a little too busy for me. I do not like it when the title can't be clearly seen. I like some of the elements. I like the flower die cuts, and these butterflies are pretty, but overall it's a little too busy for me. It's fine. I had just gotten this punch and I wanted to play with it, and I like the way that piece came out, but overall a little too busy for my taste. Somehow this one is probably even more busy, but this one is okay with me. This is using the Bird Waltz collection from Blue Fern Studios. There's some texture paste in the background, sprays, watercolor sprays. I got these leaves from Michael's. They're chipboard, and I got those. I got a whole bunch of these, and I was happy to finally use them and get them on the page. And these are metal flowers. I've only been to Hobby Lobby maybe 2 or 3 times in my life. I picked these up many years ago, and I finally got them on a page. And I'm sure you know how good it feels to do that. Okay, here's another Eastern State Penitentiary. I was getting a little bored, or, not bored, but I felt that I had used a lot of the earth tones. I was trying to make this one a little bit more colorful, inspired by the fact that there's a lot of different colors in these bricks, and I decided to go a little bit with a little bit more colorful palette here with some purples and yellows and reds. And I did some stamping on the background, which is something that I need to do more of, and some torn and distressed paper. This layout, I had to return to it even after load was over because I felt too incomplete. This is a layout of my 25-year anniversary with my husband. This is us when we got married, of course, and it was the same month. at 25 years last year. And this was using, again, I am almost certain this is the Bird Waltz collection from Blue Fern Studios, and using texture paste, splatters. I used some cheesecloth, Prima flowers, and this is also some chipboard from Michaels. And then some pearls. I like to include pearls in those types of layouts. Here is another layout of our dog Jackson. When we got our dogs, I really didn't want a dog. My husband really didn't want a dog. We had just lost our dog of 10 years, and we just were heartbroken. So Julia really wanted another dog, and she really, when she wants something, she knows how to work it. So she was researching different rescue dogs that we could get, and then we ended up getting Jackson, and this page is about how she was right, that even though we didn't feel like we were ready for another dog, we were certainly very happy to get another dog. And then the next week we got another dog, so I think we overdid it. No, but I love both of them. And this layout, I really like this idea of using paper scraps. I'm sure I got this from Pinterest or was inspired by another scrapbooker, of using little paper strips. These are 1/2 inch paper strips. I had a bunch of scraps of colors that I really liked. I liked these papers and the way that the colors look together. And so I cut them all out, pasted them down, and once I did that, the layout was almost done. If I could do it again, the one thing I would do is I would stop right here at the midpoint. I feel like I went a little bit too far and it throws the balance off a little bit. But, you know, those are things that you learn as you do the layout. I'm sure I'll do this idea again, and I'll know next time not to make it cover more than half of the page. But I also used on this page again some mixed media, some splatters, some watercolor sprays, and some ephemera. This page has a lot of glitter on it, a little more glitter than I usually have on my pages, but I thought for New Year's Eve, that's probably, if you're going to use a lot of bling, this is the time to use it. So I had this in my stash for a very, very long time. It's a foam glitter heart background, and then I use this cut file on top of it. I believe this is a wedding collection, a Simple Stories wedding collection, but I thought that it went well with this theme. And some old Jolie's stickers, and I did journal on this page, so that's a good thing. Sometimes when I go on vacation, like the journaling for the pages when I go on vacation, I do that. I make a little journal, even if it's just a day. I'll write down all the things that we did either that day or the next day, and I will print that up and include that in my albums, and that way I don't journal on the individual pages. I have my journaling all on a separate page, so I put in an 8.5 by 11 inch page on my paper. So even though there's no journaling on a lot of these, I have journaling for vacations. It's the other pages that I don't always have journaling for. So this is from an older picture of my kids when we went to Cape Cod at an indoor pool that we were at for a couple of hours. And it's just a fun layout using one of my favorite Simple Stories collections. And it's just great how when you have a nice cut file like this, everything just comes together and there isn't too much left to do. And I love when there's room to put the photos right in the cut file. And the final layout is a picture of my daughter. She had made her confirmation, and we all went to a Japanese restaurant afterwards to celebrate. And this is a picture of her. There were so many beautiful places to take pictures. This is one of them. And so I used this cut file from the Silhouette Studio, and I used this old basic gray collection that I love. I wish I had more of it. And you can see I used just watercolor sprays and some texture paste in the background. And that's it. That was my load challenge. And I hope that you liked that. If you did enjoy this video, I hope that you'll like and subscribe. And if you would like to check out all my layouts, you can find me at City Scrapper on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great day. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.